My name is Ellie Anderson, and I'm here to share how I turned my worst day into my greatest triumph. Picture this: I caught my fiancé in bed with my younger sister 3 months before our wedding. Then they sent me a wedding invitation with a note: "Come see what true love looks like." Most would skip it or show up in tears. Not me. I arrived in a dazzling white dress, carrying a secret that would shatter their perfect day and change everything. The look on my sister's face when she realized she lost $8 million? Unforgettable. I'm jumping ahead though. If you're enjoying this, please like and subscribe. Drop a comment with where you're watching from and the time there. Let's rewind. The moment I stepped through St. Catherine's Cathedral's oak doors, whispers erupted. 200 guests turned stunned. The X? In white. How bold. I heard their gasps, felt their shock fill the sacred space. I walked down the burgundy carpet, chin up, step steady. My Versace dress, the one meant for my wedding, fit like a dream. Morning light hit the pearl beading, making me glow with every move. The altar stood Sophia, my sister, in ivory silk and white roses, and Marcus in the charcoal tux he'd chosen with me. His face paled when our eyes locked. Mrs. Patterson, the wedding coordinator, rushed over, flustered. "Miss Anderson, we didn't expect." "My invitation says 2 o'clock," I said coolly, flashing the pearl card. "I'm on time." I slipped into a pew near the back, legs crossed gracefully. Mom gaped from the front row, speechless. Dad's jaw tightened, a muscle twitching. Sophia's fury was clear as she clutched Marcus's arm, whispering fiercely, "Good. Let her sweat." The organ blared, trying to calm the chaos I'd sparked just by showing up. Father Michael glanced nervously between me and the bride, adjusting his glasses. Tension was electric. Nobody knew, not Sophia, not Marcus, not my parents, that I held the winning hand. In my purse was a wooden box packed with 6 months of patience, years of planning, and justice in legal form. The ceremony was starting, and I was right where I belonged. 2 weeks earlier, I found an envelope in Sophia's handwriting among my mail. My hand shook as I opened it. The invitation matched my own wedding plans, same font, same design, even the same calligrapher. Her note inside chilled me. "Dearest Ellie, this might be tough, but family celebrates family. Come see true love. Love, Sophie and Marcus." I stood in my kitchen, rereading those cruel words. She wasn't just stealing my fiancé, she was twisting the knife, using my own wedding plans against me. I called Rachel that night. "Don't go," she pleaded. "She wants to humiliate you." But Rachel didn't know about my meeting with James Mitchell, Grandma's lawyer, a week earlier. She didn't know about the documents locked in his safe, waiting for the right moment. "I'm going," I told her, "and I'll make this wedding unforgettable." For 2 weeks I prepared, not for revenge but for justice. After 28 years of being the quiet, good daughter, I was ready to claim what was mine. I called Marcus once. He picked up, voice shaky. "Ellie, I can explain." "No need," I cut him off. "Happy with your choice?" "What?" 8 million, Marcus. "Hope she's worth it." I hung up, leaving him to stew. He thought he was clever. He'd soon learn otherwise. On the wedding morning, that invitation sat on my coffee table, the cruel note beneath it. But I wasn't that woman anymore. I'd learned kindness didn't mean weakness. Being the older sister should have mattered. In most families, it does. But in ours, I was the rough draft. Sophia was the star. 16, she got a BMW with a red bow. I got a bus pass and a lecture on hard work while she posed for Instagram. Family gatherings were brutal. Sophia's so vibrant. She lights up rooms. Why aren't you more like her, Ellie? I earned straight A's and got into MIT for architecture. Sophia barely passed state school with a communications degree. Guess who got the bigger party? "You're too serious," Mom would say, eyeing my blueprints. "Men don't like smart women." Sophia glided through life on charm, taking my prom date, my tennis team spot. She only played after I won districts and my internship by sweet-talking her way in. But Grandma Eleanor saw the truth. "You've got something Sophia doesn't," she said, her hands on mine. "Substance, patience, the power to build something real." I thought she meant my career. Now, in that cathedral, I knew she meant more. Sophia's pattern was clear. If it made me happy, she wanted it. Our parents always excused her. "She's spirited," they'd say. "Be the bigger person, Ellie." For 32 years I was. I hid my pain, swallowed my anger, accepted the unfairness. When Sophia flirted with Marcus at my engagement party, I doubted myself. "You're paranoid," he said. "She's just friendly." 3 months later, I found them in our bed in my apartment on our engagement gift sheets. Yet my parents blamed me. "You work too much. You didn't focus on him." Today, though, the rough draft would shine. Sophia's betrayals were her signature. She took what was mine, but Marcus was her cruelest theft. Began in high school with Jake Morrison, my first boyfriend. At homecoming, I caught them kissing in his car. "He kissed me," Sophia sobbed to our parents. Jake was banned, and I was told to stop overreacting. Then the Peyton Scholarship. I worked 3 years, volunteering, keeping a 4.0 building homes. The day before my interview, my portfolio vanished. Sophia found it, ruined by water. She took my place, claiming she loved humanitarian work. She won the scholarship and never used it for good. Sophia's theft of Marcus was her cruelest act yet, far worse than her past betrayals. I met Marcus at an architecture conference, all charm and ambition. For 2 years, we planned a life together, our own firm, a suburban house, maybe kids. But when Sophia visited for Thanksgiving, saw my ring, and sensed my joy, her eyes changed. I should have seen it coming. By Christmas, she was texting him nonstop. "Work stuff," she claimed, though she had no job in architecture. By Valentine's Day, she crashed our dinners, calling it a coincidence. In April, I found her earring in our bedroom. Marcus called me crazy, saying it fell off when she helped move furniture. 3 weeks later, I came home early from a trip. The sound I made seeing them together wasn't human. Marcus's words cut deeper than the betrayal. "She's everything you're not, spontaneous, fun, exciting. Not boring like me." They moved in together a week later. My parents threw them a housewarming party. I wasn't invited, but Mom made sure I knew they looked so happy. Sophia never looked past the surface, the handsome fiancé, the ring, my wedding plans. She missed Marcus's lies, his gambling debts, the credit cards he opened in my name. She didn't see what Grandma Eleanor saw or what waited in that wooden box. The numbers kept me up at night. I'd spent $50,000 on our wedding, non-refundable deposits for the dress, venue, catering. Now those guests would watch Sophia marry Marcus. But that was just the start. The next morning at Brennan and Associates, where I'd worked 7 years, everyone stared. Someone saw Marcus leave our apartment with a suitcase. Another saw Sophia's Instagram story from my bedroom. By lunch, I was the office gossip. "Take some time off," my boss, Richard, suggested. "Until things settle." That break cost me the $40 million waterfront plaza project I'd led for 2 years. They gave it to Bradley, a 6-month newbie. "We need someone without distractions," Richard said. My promised promotion? Gone. My student loan bonus? Vanished. My reputation? Ruined. Meanwhile, our family's firm, Anderson and Associates, built by Grandma Eleanor, was bleeding cash. Dad's bad investments and lost contracts left us 3 months from bankruptcy. My parents acted like all was fine. "Sophia's wedding must be perfect," Mom said. The Thompsons might invest. Marcus's parents, oblivious to his gambling debts, were their hope. Dad called me. "Come to the wedding, Ellie." "For the family business." "She stole my fiancé," I said. "Stop being selfish. This is bigger than you." I hung up. I called my accountant and learned the truth. Bankruptcy would wipe out my inheritance, my portfolio, my future. That's when I focused on the documents James Mitchell, Grandma's lawyer, had been urging me to review. That's when I discovered what Grandma really left me. Your grandmother was brilliant, James said, sliding papers across his desk. She knew what she was doing. Company was worth $8 million if you knew where to look. Grandma ensured I would. Dad had the nerve to say I should have kept Marcus happy, like his betrayal was my fault. Sophia's social media assault began hours later. She posted their engagement photo everywhere, a beach sunset, her hand flashing Grandma's ring, the one Marcus gave me. Her caption, "When you know, you know. Love finds you in unexpected places. Can't wait to marry my best friend. Hashtag true love, hashtag soulmates, hashtag blessed bride." 500 likes in an hour. My friends commented, "Perfect couple. Love wins." Not one asked about me. At work, I became a ghost. Conversations stopped when I passed. Lunch invites vanished. The gala I'd run for 5 years? Handed to Jennifer. "You have too much on your plate," Richard said. My college friend Ashley unfriended me after Sophia spread lies about me abusing Marcus. My book club dissolved to avoid taking sides. Even my yoga teacher hinted I brought negative energy. Pity stung worst. People who spoke to me acted like I was broken. "How are you holding up?" they'd ask, fishing for gossip. Rachel stayed true, but even she didn't get it. "Move on," she said. "Living well is the best revenge." I didn't want revenge. I wanted justice. There's a difference. Sophia's social media was torture I couldn't ignore. She used my vendors, my florist, my caterer, my venue, living my wedding with my groom. "Cake tasting today," posted from my bakery. "Found the dress from my boutique." "Dream honeymoon in Italy," my exact itinerary. Each post was a calculated stab. She knew I'd see them. While she posted, I met with lawyers, accountants, and Grandma's old colleagues. "Your sister has no clue, does she?" James asked at our third meeting. "No," I said, finally smiling. "She's too busy planning her perfect wedding. If you've been betrayed, you know this pain." Here's where things shift. What would you have done? Gone to the wedding? Comment below, I read them all. If this hits home, hit that like button to share the story. Now, the call that changed it all. 3 days before the wedding, Sophia's Material Girl ringtone blared. I almost ignored it but answered. "You're not really coming, right?" Her voice dripped with fake sweetness. "Wouldn't miss it," I said. "Don't embarrass yourself, Ellie." "I'm not the one who should be embarrassed. I know you're hurt." "Hurt?" I laughed, calm and steady. "I'm grateful, Sophie. You did me a favor. The Marcus is yours." Silence. She was scrambling to read me. "Don't wear white or do anything crazy." "Wouldn't dream of it," I lied. She hung up. 5 minutes later, Marcus texted, "Can we talk?" Then, "I'm sorry." Then, "You deserve the truth." Finally, "It's about the money." That last text stopped me. He didn't know about Grandma's will, it was sealed. "What money?" I didn't reply but saved the screenshots. Next morning, Mom appeared at my apartment in her Chanel suit, looking uncomfortable. "Stay home Saturday," she said. "It's a free country. Think of the family, Ellie. Like Sophia did when she slept with my fiancé." "That's different," she snapped. "They fell in love in my bed." "You're being crude." "I'm being honest." "There's a difference." She pulled out her checkbook. Yes, a real checkbook in 2024. "How much will it take?" "Excuse me." "For you to stay away." 5,000? 10. I stared at her, my own mother, trying to buy my absence from my sister's wedding to my ex-fiancé. "Keep your money," I said quietly. "You're going to need it." "What's that supposed to mean?" Ask Dad about the Patterson contract. Ask him about the loans he took out against the company. Her face went pale. How do you? Goodbye, Mom. After she left, I called James Mitchell. Is everything ready? The documents are authenticated and sealed. The board members have been notified to be on standby. And the timing? Whenever you're ready, Miss Anderson. Your grandmother made sure of that. I hung up and looked at the white Versace dress hanging on my closet door. Almost time. The family intervention hit Friday night, less than 18 hours before the wedding. They ambushed me at my apartment, Mom, Dad, and Aunt Patricia, the family enforcer. This has gone far enough, Dad started, settling into my couch like he owned it. You will not ruin your sister's wedding. I'm not ruining anything. I'm attending as invited. Aunt Patricia clutched her pearls. The entire extended family will be there. The Washingtons, the Clearys, the Brennans. What will people think? The truth. Don't be smart, Dad snapped. The company needs this wedding to go perfectly. Marcus's family has connections. Marcus is $200,000 in debt, I said calmly. Did he mention that? The room went quiet. Mom recovered first. You're lying. Gambling debts, credit cards, a failed business venture in Miami. I pulled up the files on my phone. I had a private investigator look into it after I found them together. Wanted to know what kind of man I'd almost married. Dad's face was turning purple. You had no right. I had every right. He opened 3 credit cards in my name. I'm still fighting the fraud charges. This is exactly why he left you, Mom said coldly. You're so controlling. He didn't leave me. He cheated on me with my sister, who's welcome to him. Stop being vindictive, Aunt Patricia said. Family supports family. Where was that support when I needed it? You're the older one, the responsible one. Act like it. My phone buzzed. James Mitchell, final review complete. Board members confirmed for emergency meeting Monday 9 a.m. I looked at my family, these people who'd never taken my side, who'd spent my life making me smaller so Sophia could shine brighter. I'll see you all tomorrow, I said, standing up. 2 o'clock sharp. Dad stood too, trying to loom over me. If you show up tomorrow. What? You'll disown me? Cut me off? You already did that when you gave Sophia my wedding vendors, my venue, my life. We're trying to save the family business. No, I said, opening my door. You're trying to save yourselves. There's a difference. As they filed out, Mom turned back. Your grandmother would be ashamed of you. I smiled then, my first real smile in months. We'll see about that. After they left, I opened the wooden box one more time, running my fingers over the legal documents inside. Grandma Eleanor's real will, the one she'd hidden from everyone except James Mitchell. Tomorrow, everything would change. Grandma Eleanor had died 6 months ago on a rainy Tuesday in January. I'd been the only one with her at the end, holding her papery hand while she struggled for breath. Patience, my dear, she'd whispered, her eyes still sharp despite the morphine. The quiet ones changed the world. At her funeral, Sophia had sobbed dramatically despite not visiting once during Grandma's 3-month battle with cancer. She'd even tried to give a eulogy but broke down after 2 sentences. Everyone comforted her. Poor Sophie. She's so sensitive. I'd given no eulogy. I'd sat in the back, dry-eyed, remembering the real Eleanor Anderson, the woman who'd built an architecture firm from nothing in 1978, when women weren't supposed to run businesses. 2 weeks after the funeral, James Mitchell had called. Your grandmother left specific instructions. The will reading is postponed for 6 months. Why? She said you'd understand when the time was right. I hadn't understood then, but as spring turned to summer and my life fell apart piece by piece, I started getting calls from James, from Grandma's old business partners, from people I'd never heard of who knew things about our family's company that even Dad didn't know. "Your grandmother was concerned," James had said during our first real meeting, "about your father's management, about your sister's influence, but mostly about you. About me. She said you were the only one who understood what she'd built, the only one who cared about legacy instead of lifestyle." He'd shown me documents, incorporation papers, patent filings, property deeds. Anderson and Associates was worth far more than anyone knew. Grandma had been quietly buying back shares for decades, placing them in a trust. "But there are conditions," James had explained, "very specific conditions. The main one, the heir had to be unmarried or married to someone approved by the board of directors, Grandma's hand-picked board, not Dad's golf buddies, someone financially stable, someone of good character." "She knew," I'd said, understanding finally dawning. "She knew about Marcus. She suspected. She also knew about your sister's patterns. So, if Sophia marries Marcus, she forfeits any claim to the inheritance, and if she's already married to him when the will is read, she can't contest it." James had smiled. "Your grandmother was a very strategic woman." Now, the night before the wedding, I held the sealed will in my hands, 6 months exactly since Grandma's death. Timing was perfect. "Thank you," I whispered to her memory, "for seeing me, for believing in me." Tomorrow, patience would become power. The full scope of Grandma's plan was breathtaking. Anderson and Associates wasn't just a small family firm. It was the tip of an $8 million iceberg. Over 40 years, Grandma had quietly acquired patents, properties, and partnerships, keeping them in separate entities that only she controlled. The office building on 5th Street, owned by a trust. The revolutionary design software the firm used, she held the patent. The contracts with 3 Fortune 500 companies, personal relationships she'd maintained outside the official business. "Your father never bothered to look," James had explained, spreading the documents across his conference table. "He assumed he knew everything about the company because his name was on the door. But the conditions for inheritance were ironclad. The heir must be of Anderson blood, unmarried or married to someone of demonstrable financial stability, approved by the board of directors within 30 days of the will's reading, of sound moral character as determined by specific criteria." That last one was Grandma's master stroke. She'd defined moral character in legal terms. No criminal record, no outstanding debts over $50,000, no history of marital infidelity with an engaged or married person. "She really thought of everything," I'd marveled. "She had 6 months after your engagement to refine the language," James had said. "She was concerned about Marcus from the start. But she never said anything. She believed in letting people reveal themselves." The board of directors was equally strategic. 5 people Grandma had worked with for decades, all with unshakable integrity. They'd been waiting, silent partners in her plan. "What happens if no one meets the conditions?" I'd asked. "The entire estate goes to the International Women's Architecture Foundation. And if Sophia contests?" "She can try, but marrying a man with over $200,000 in gambling debts who committed credit fraud against her own sister?" James had shaken his head. "No judge would override your grandmother's wishes for that." The wedding invitation on my coffee table seemed to mock me. "Come see what true love looks like." True love. Sophia thought she'd won because she'd taken Marcus. She had no idea she'd actually lost everything the moment she said, "I do." The wooden box sat beside the invitation, containing not just the will, but also Marcus's credit reports, the fraud documentation, and 3 years of Grandma's personal letters expressing her concerns about Sophia's character. Tomorrow, at exactly the right moment, the truth would set everyone free, whether they wanted to be free or not. The wedding reception was in full swing when I arrived. Cocktail hour before the ceremony, Sophia's idea of sophistication. I could hear the laughter floating from the garden where guests mingled with champagne and judgment. The seating chart by the entrance told me everything I needed to know about my place in this circus. Table 19, the last table in the corner by the kitchen doors. I was seated with the catering staff's families and plus ones who'd been added last minute. Ellie, Brittany, one of Sophia's bridesmaids, appeared with a gaggle of others. They all wore matching blush pink dresses and identical smirks. "We didn't think you'd actually come." "Wouldn't miss it," I said smoothly, signing the guest book with a steady hand. They giggled behind manicured hands, already texting furiously. Within minutes, the whispers spread through the garden like wildfire. I made my way outside, where 200 guests pretended not to stare. The garden was decorated exactly as I'd planned for my wedding. White roses, string lights, even the same string quartet playing Pachelbel's canon. Then I saw him, Richard Brennan, CEO of Brennan Industries, our biggest potential client. He was chatting with Marcus's parents, who were putting on their best show of wealth despite their son's debts. "Ellie," Richard nodded, clearly uncomfortable. "I didn't expect to see you here." "Family is family," I replied, accepting a champagne flute from a passing waiter. Across the garden, I spotted another surprise: 3 members of Grandma's board. They weren't supposed to be here, but each caught my eye and nodded slightly. James Mitchell had been busy. The wedding coordinator signaled it was time to find our seats. As I passed the head table, Sophia's voice floated down from the bridal suite window. "She's really wearing white? How pathetic." Marcus mumbled something back, but I only caught inheritance and mistake. I slid into my spot at table 19, surrounded by strangers who didn't know me. Perfect. I wanted to stay invisible until the right moment. The string quartet switched to the processional tune. Guests turned, phones up, ready to snap the perfect shot. The bridesmaids glided down the aisle, each one tossing me a look of pity or scorn. Marcus took his place at the altar, barely glancing my way. His best man whispered something, and he let out a nervous laugh. The music swelled, and everyone stood as Sophia appeared, glowing in her white gown, striding toward her future. She had no clue how right she was about true love being revealed today. Father Michael droned on about love and honesty while Marcus fidgeted, and Sophia radiated victory. Then came the personal vows, Sophia's idea, of course. She went first, her voice dripping with rehearsed emotion. "Marcus, you showed me what real love is." "Some people," she said, staring right at me, "think they know love. But true love can't be forced or planned. It just happens and nothing can stop it." Crowd cooed. A few heads turned my way, waiting for me to crack. I kept my face blank, hands folded calmly. Marcus's vows were brief, shaky. "Sophia, you bring excitement. You're spontaneous, fun, everything I didn't know I needed." He swallowed hard. "You make me feel alive." I noticed he never said love. Father Michael beamed. "These two have overcome obstacles to stand here today." Obstacles. Was that me now? Just a hurdle they'd cleared? "Marriage is sacred," he went on, "built on trust and honesty, free of hidden agendas." Marcus's jaw tightened at hidden agendas. He knew about his debts. Did Sophia? "Marriage is also a legal bond," Father Michael said. "If anyone knows a legal reason these two shouldn't wed, speak now or hold your peace." The garden went quiet. Sophia shot me a smirk, daring me. I stood. Gasps spread like wildfire. Sophia's smug look vanished. Marcus turned pale. "I object," I said, my voice steady. "On legal grounds." I stepped forward, pulling a wooden box from my purse. "I have documents that impact this marriage." The silence was deafening. "If you'd been humiliated like this, would you stay quiet? Or would you do what I did? Share your biggest betrayal in the comments if you want. Your story might help someone. And if you're hooked, hit that subscribe button." Now here's the moment that changed everything. "I object on legal grounds." My voice rang out clear and calm. 200 guests froze, stunned. A champagne glass shattered on the ground. Father Michael blinked, caught off guard. "Miss Anderson, this is unusual." I have documents, I said, walking down the aisle, my white Versace dress catching the sunlight. Someone whispered, "She wore white to her sister's wedding." Yes, I did. "Ellie, sit down," my mother snapped from the front row. I ignored her, reaching the altar where Sophia clutched her bouquet, trembling. Marcus looked ready to run. "These are legal papers," I said, handing the wooden box to Father Michael, notarized, about the Anderson family estate and marriage conditions. Father Michael hesitated. "I'm not sure." "Read them," James Mitchell called, standing from the fifth row. "I'm James Mitchell, Anderson estate attorney. Those documents are binding and time-sensitive." Sophia snapped. "This is absurd." "You can't." "I can," I said, facing the crowd. 6 months ago, our grandmother, Eleanor Anderson, passed. Her will had specific rules most of you don't know. "You're lying," Sophia hissed. "I heard the will." "That was preliminary," James said, stepping forward. "The full will was sealed for 6 months, per her orders. Today's the deadline." Father Michael opened the box, his hands shaky, and read, "The Anderson estate, worth $8 million, goes to Ellie Anderson based on her marital status." Gasps erupted. Richard Brennan, a board member, leaned in, all ears. "The heir must be unmarried or wed to someone financially stable, approved by the board," Father Michael read. "Any family member marrying someone with over $50,000 in debt or a history of fraud loses all inheritance rights." Marcus swayed. Sophia's nails dug into his arm. "Also," Father Michael said, "any family member who commits infidelity with an engaged person is cut off completely." The garden was silent. You could hear a heartbeat. "How much debt do you have, Marcus?" I asked casually. "Over $200,000, right? Plus the credit cards you opened in my name." Crowd exploded. Father Michael's voice boomed over the shocked garden, each word from the will hitting like a thunderbolt. "The Anderson estate, including Anderson and Associates, its patents, properties, and partnerships, worth $8 million, goes to Ellie Marie Anderson." Sophia's face drained from red to white to a sickly gray. "That's impossible." "The company's dad's. It's built on Grandma's patents," I said coolly. "Her properties, her partnerships. Dad managed it, but Grandma owned it." James Mitchell held up more papers. "Mrs. Anderson held 78% ownership through trusts and companies. She set strict inheritance rules." "This is fraud," Marcus blurted, finding his voice. "You can't." "Mr. Thompson," James cut in. "Opening credit cards in someone's name is a federal crime. Ellie hasn't pressed charges yet." Crowd buzzed, phones out, recording. This would hit social media fast. Father Michael cleared his throat. "The will also says any marriage based on lies about money or intent to defraud can be challenged." "We're not married yet," Sophia shrieked. "This doesn't count." "Wrong," Mrs. Chen, a board member, stood. "Your public engagement triggered the morality clause. Stealing your sister's fiancé shows a lack of character, per Section 7, subsection 3. You knew." Sophia whirled on me, her perfect hair falling apart. "You knew all along?" "I learned 2 weeks ago," I said, "after your sweet invitation to see true love." "But if you'd married Marcus," Sophia started. "I'm not marrying Marcus." "You are or were." I faced the crowd. "Marcus has $200,000 in gambling debts, 3 maxed-out credit cards in my name, and a failed business he hid. The board would never approve him. If I'd married him, I'd lose everything, too." Sophia staggered, her heels catching on her train. "You saved me, Sophie," I said. "You stopped me from the worst mistake of my life. Now you get Marcus, debts and all, while I get the company, properties, and Grandma's vision for me." "The prenup!" Marcus yelled. "Sophie, the prenup you signed." All eyes turned. "What prenup?" Sophia whispered. "The one keeping our finances separate," Marcus said, panicking. You waived claims to my assets. What assets? Sophia laughed wildly. Your debts. Chaos erupted. It was like watching a tower crumble in slow motion. Marcus grabbed Sophia's hands. Sophie, we can fix this. She yanked free. Fix what? You're broke. You lied. I didn't lie. You said you were successful. You said you had investments. Investments in poker games? She screamed, mascara streaking her face. You knew about the inheritance and still chose me. Marcus's silence screamed the truth. He'd bet on Sophia inheriting, not me. Wrong sister. You used me, Sophia whispered, the truth sinking in. You couldn't get Ellie's money, so you went for mine. Mom rushed to the altar, desperate to save face. This is private. Please. Mrs. Anderson, Richard Brennan cut in. Did your husband manage a company he doesn't own? Dad's face turned purple. This is outrageous. Actually, James said, he took loans against assets he doesn't own. That's fraud. The board will pursue legal action. The board? Dad sputtered. I'm the president. Of a company you don't own, Mrs. Chin said calmly. Your role is terminated. Ellie is the new CEO, pending unanimous board approval. The dominoes kept falling. Marcus's parents backed away, his mother horrified, realizing his debts were their burden again. Thompsons looked ready to vanish. The wedding's off, Father Michael said, stating the obvious. The altar was a mess. Sophia's bouquet crushed, Marcus's boutonniere ruined, the unity candle toppled. This isn't over, Sophia snarled at me, her princess image shattered. I'll sue. With what? I asked softly. You quit your job for this wedding. Marcus is broke, Mom and Dad face fraud charges, and you signed a prenup waiving claims. The truth hit her hard. She'd bet everything on a man who was a walking liability. Grandma always said you were special, Sophia spat. Her precious Ellie. No, I said. She said I was patient. There's a difference. James stepped forward. Board meetings Monday, 9 a.m., Miss Anderson. We need you to accept the CEO role. I nodded and faced the crowd. Thanks for coming. The reception's paid for, my deposit. Enjoy. I walked back down the aisle, leaving chaos behind. The legal gears were already turning. James stopped Marcus from bolting. Mr. Thompson, stay. The police have questions about those credit cards. 2 officers appeared. James had planned for this. No arrest yet, but the questions would ruin Marcus's reputation for good. This is a setup, Marcus yelled. She trapped me. You trapped yourself with fraud, Officer Williams said coolly. We just need to confirm some signatures. The board members surrounded Dad. Mrs. Chen scrolled through a tablet, pointing at records. Mr. Anderson explained these withdrawals. And these 17 others. Business expenses. For your personal mortgage? Mr. Yamamoto raised an eyebrow. That's embezzlement. I'm the president. Were, Mrs. Chen corrected. You never owned the company. Guests split into 2 groups. Some fled, others filmed. I spotted 3 live streams. #wedding crash was likely trending already. Sophia tried a last-ditch move. If Marcus and I don't marry, Ellie can wed him and lose everything. I laughed out loud. Sophie, I wouldn't touch Marcus now if he were the last man alive. His fraud makes him ineligible under Grandma's morality clause. He's poison to any Anderson inheritance. You planned this? She accused. You knew I'd take him. I guessed you'd try. You always want what's mine. But Marcus's debts? That was a shock, found after I caught you too. Funny how it all unfolded. Richard Brennan approached me as I reached my car, his polished shoes crunching on the gravel driveway. He was a tall man with silver hair that caught the late afternoon sun and a suit that screamed old money. "Miss Anderson," he said, extending a hand with a warm but professional smile. "Brennan Industries would like to discuss a potential partnership with Anderson and Associates. Under your new leadership, of course." I shook his hand firmly, my heart racing beneath my calm exterior. "I'll have my office reach out on Monday," I replied, my voice steady despite the thrill bubbling inside me. This was the partnership deal my father had pursued relentlessly for 2 long years, attending endless networking events, sending proposal after proposal, only to be met with polite rejections. Now here it was, falling into my lap on the most chaotic day of my life. "Your grandmother would be proud," Mr. Brennan added softly, his eyes twinkling with genuine respect. "She always spoke of you as the true future of the company." Eleanor had a keen eye for talent. His words hit me like a gentle wave, washing away some of the day's tension. Grandma Eleanor had been more than a matriarch. She was a visionary who built Anderson and Associates from a small architecture firm into a multi-million-dollar enterprise. Hearing that from someone like Brennan, a titan in the industry, made the victory feel even sweeter. As I slid into the driver's seat of my sleek black Audi, I glanced back through the rearview mirror. The scene unfolding behind me was like something out of a dramatic movie. Sophia was still at the altar, her once immaculate white gown now rumpled, her shoulders heaving with sobs. Marcus stood nearby, flanked by 2 police officers, his face ashen as he gestured wildly, trying to explain away his misdeeds. My parents were in the thick of it, yelling at James Mitchell, our family attorney, who remained unflappable, holding his briefcase like a shield. And the guests, oh the guests, were scattered like ants at a picnic invasion, phones held high, capturing every tear, every shout, every crumble of the fairy tale facade. The reception hall loomed in the background, its doors wide open, revealing tables set with fine china and crystal, the massive wedding cake standing tall and uncut, its tiers of buttercream frosting mocking the day's events. The band, hired at great expense, hovered uncertainly on the stage, instruments in hand, wondering if they should strike up a tune or pack up and go. What was supposed to be my dream wedding, planned meticulously over months, with every detail from the floral arrangements to the menu chosen by me, had transformed into Sophia's ultimate nightmare. Justice, I thought as I turned the key in the ignition, tasted sweeter than any wedding cake ever could. The drive home was a blur of winding roads and golden sunset hues. My mind replayed the day's events like a highlight reel. The gasps when I stood to object, the shock on Sophia's face as the will was read, the unraveling of Marcus's carefully constructed lies. By the time I pulled into my driveway, exhaustion mingled with exhilaration. I poured myself a glass of wine and collapsed onto the couch, only to have my phone erupt in a symphony of notifications. By Sunday morning, the video had exploded across the internet. Titled "Bride's Sister Objects at Wedding with $8 million Will Reveal," it had already racked up 3 million views on YouTube alone, with mirrors popping up on TikTok, Instagram Reels, and every other platform imaginable. The footage, pieced together from multiple guests' phones, captured the entire spectacle. My poised walk down the aisle in that controversial white Versace dress, Father Michael's trembling hands as he read the will, Sophia's smug smirk dissolving into horror, and Marcus's desperate attempts to salvage the unsalvageable. Comment section was a battlefield of opinions, but mostly they sided with me. "The sister got exactly what she deserved, karma in a white dress," one top comment read. Another, "Grandma playing 4D chess from beyond the grave. Legendary move." And my personal favorite, "Imagine fumbling an $8 million inheritance for a broke cheater." Couldn't be me. There were a few detractors calling me petty or dramatic, but they were drowned out by the wave of support. Strangers shared their own stories of family betrayals, turning the comment thread into a virtual support group. My phone hadn't stopped buzzing since the night before. Texts from old friends, calls from distant relatives, even a few interview requests from local news outlets. Rachel, my best friend since college, was the first to call that morning. "Girl, you're famous now," she laughed, her voice crackling with excitement. "That video is everywhere. Also, remind me never to cross you, you're a mastermind." I chuckled, sipping my coffee. It wasn't about revenge, Ratch. It was about truth. Whatever it was epic. How are you holding up? Better than expected, I admitted. A little overwhelmed, but good. Sophia's Instagram, which had been a meticulously curated showcase of her wedding planning, engagement photos, dress fittings, venue tours, had turned into a digital graveyard overnight. Posts were deleted in droves, but screenshots circulated anyway. Harsh comments flooded what remained. Thief got thieved, karma's a bride in white, your true love was truly broke. Her budding influencer career, built on lifestyle tips and sponsored posts, crumbled before it could take off. Brands distanced themselves, followers unfollowed en masse. Marcus, on the other hand, had vanished from the online world entirely. His social media accounts went dark, profiles set to private or deleted. His upscale apartment in the city was already listed for rent on real estate sites, the photos showing a hasty departure, furniture still in place as if he'd fled in the night. Rumors swirled that he'd retreated to his parents' home in Connecticut, licking his wounds and dodging calls from creditors. The fraud investigation was ongoing, but my lawyer assured me over a quick call that Marcus would have to repay every penny he'd stolen through those fraudulent credit cards. It's airtight, she said. He won't wriggle out of this. Monday morning brought a fresh wave of developments at Anderson and Associates. As I walked into the office building, tall glass structure reflecting the city's skyline, 3 major clients had already reached out via email, specifically requesting to work directly with me. One was a high-profile real estate developer looking for innovative architectural designs, another a tech firm needing sustainable building solutions, the third a nonprofit organization focused on urban renewal. They all cited the same reason: admiration for a leader who had built her success quietly, rising above family drama through sheer competence and integrity. In a world of noise, your story shows quiet strength, one email read. It was the kind of leadership they wanted to align with. During a brief meeting with a prospective client that afternoon, the CEO leaned forward and said, "Your grandmother was a legend in this industry. She built Anderson and Associates back when women were expected to stay in the kitchen, not run boardrooms. It's clear the company is in safe hands with you at the helm." His words echoed Mr. Brennan's from the wedding, reinforcing the legacy I was stepping into. The board meeting later that day was a mere formality. Gathered in the sleek conference room with its panoramic views, the members, seasoned professionals who'd known Grandma for decades, voted unanimously in my favor, just as James Mitchell had predicted. With that, I officially became CEO of Anderson and Associates, taking the reins of an $8 million empire that I'd contributed to for years through late nights and innovative projects, but never dreamed I'd lead. Dad tried to force his way into the office that same afternoon. I watched from my new corner office, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the bustling streets below, as security escorted him out. I'd revoked his access credentials first thing that morning, a necessary step to protect the company's integrity. His embezzlement case was progressing steadily. Prosecutors had enough evidence from the unauthorized loans and withdrawals to build a strong case. He'd likely avoid jail time through a plea deal, but his reputation in the business world was irreparably tarnished. No one would trust him with financial oversight again. Mom's calls started piling up, 17 in total before I finally answered on the 18th. Her voice was strained, laced with desperation. "Ellie, how could you do this to your own family? We're ruined because of you." I took a deep breath, staring out at the city lights beginning to twinkle as dusk fell. "I didn't do anything to you, Mom. I just stopped letting you all do things to me. The lies, the betrayals, they caught up." "Sophia's completely broken," she pressed. "She's not eating, not sleeping. She'll recover," I said firmly. "And maybe, just maybe, she'll learn something from this. About accountability, about not taking what's not hers. She had to move back home with us," Mom continued, her tone pleading. "We're all struggling here." "Then perhaps it's time you teach her about consequences," I replied. "Like you never did before." Call ended with Mom dissolving into tears, accusing me of destroying everything we'd built. But for the first time in my life, her words didn't pierce me with guilt. I hadn't destroyed. I'd revealed the rot that was already there, hidden beneath layers of pretense and privilege. The week unfolded like a series of dominoes toppling in my favor. Tuesday's business headlines blared. Anderson and Associates stock soars under new leadership, with articles praising the fresh direction and stability I brought. Wednesday brought news of Marcus Thompson's arrest for credit fraud. Photos of him in handcuffs splashed across tabloids, his once charming smile replaced by a defeated grimace. Thursday's update was more personal. Sophia had started a barista job at a local Starbucks, her designer wardrobe swapped for a green apron. And Friday sealed the triumph, a $40 million contract signed with Brennan Industries, the very deal that had eluded Dad for so long. Grandma had been right all along. Quiet ones, the patient ones, changed the world not with thunderous declarations or aggressive takeovers, but with meticulous paperwork, strategic silence, and unyielding integrity. 2 weeks after the wedding fiasco, my family attempted a reconciliation. They arrived unannounced at my new office, the expansive corner suite that had once been Dad's, with its mahogany desk and walls lined with architectural blueprints. They looked like shadows of their former selves. Dad, aged 10 years in a fortnight, his face lined with worry, his assets frozen pending the investigation. Mom, her designer clothes wrinkled and ill-fitting, her usually flawless hair tied back in a hasty ponytail. And Sophia, hollow-eyed and subdued, a mere shell of the vibrant, vindictive woman she'd been. "We need to talk," Dad began, his once commanding voice reduced to a weary murmur as he stood in the doorway. "About the embezzlement charges?" I asked, not rising from my desk. "The lawyers are handling that. It's out of my hands now." "No, about the family," Mom interjected weakly, her eyes pleading. "We're still family, Ellie. Blood is thicker than water." "Are we really?" I countered, leaning back in my chair. "Because from where I sit, families don't scheme to destroy each other. They don't steal fiancés, weddings, or futures." "You destroyed us," Sophia rasped, her voice raw from what I imagined were nights of crying. It was the first time she'd spoken since entering. I met her gaze steadily. "No, Sophia. I simply took back what was rightfully mine, what Grandma left to me. What you all tried to steal through deceit and manipulation." "I didn't know about the will," she protested, though her tone lacked conviction. "But you knew Marcus was my fiancé," I pointed out. "You knew the wedding vendors, the plans, the dreams, they were all mine. You knew the pain you were inflicting, and from what I saw, you enjoyed every second of it." The room fell silent. Sophia had no snappy comeback, no cutting remark, a first in our tumultuous sisterly history. The air was thick with unspoken regrets. Through a beat, I reached into my desk drawer and pulled out the sealed envelope Grandma had left. "Grandma left me a letter," I said, breaking the tension. "Would you like to hear what she wrote?" They stared, frozen, as I unfolded the paper and began to read in a clear voice. "My dearest Ellie, if you're reading this, then my plan has worked. I've watched for years as your family diminished you, mistaking your kindness for weakness. Your father is a fool who prioritizes appearance over substance, chasing superficial success at the expense of integrity. Your mother enables the worst in people, turning a blind eye to flaws for the sake of harmony. And Sophia, poor Sophia, is what happens when beauty blooms without the roots of character to sustain it. But you, my dear, possess both quiet strength and genuine heart. Company was always meant to be yours. I structured everything to ensure they couldn't destroy you first. Be patient. Let them reveal their true natures, then rise above." Mom burst into tears, her hands covering her face. Dad looked stunned, as if seeing himself through Grandma's eyes for the first time. Sophia stared at the floor, her shoulders slumped. "She saw us," Dad whispered, his voice breaking. "All of us, clear as day." "She did," I agreed softly. "And she loved you anyway. But love doesn't mean blind trust. There's a crucial difference." "What do we do now?" Mom asked through her sobs, looking up at me with red-rimmed eyes. "You figure it out," I said firmly. Without my money, without my emotional support, without using me as your safety net. For once, handle your own consequences. Build something from the ground up like Grandma did. You're really going to abandon us? Sophia asked, her voice small and vulnerable. I'm not abandoning, I corrected. I'm doing exactly what you've all taught me through your actions, putting myself first. They left quietly after that, defeated and deflated, shuffling out like refugees from a life they no longer recognized. I didn't celebrate their downfall as they disappeared down the hallway. There was no joy in their suffering, only relief that I was finally free from carrying their burdens. That night, as I unwound in my quiet apartment with a book and a cup of tea, I discovered Grandma's second letter. James had handed it to me earlier, instructing me to open it only after the family confrontation. Forgiveness will come in time, it read, but boundaries must come first. Protect your peace, Ellie. I'm so proud of the woman you've become. Tears welled in my eyes. She'd anticipated everything, the betrayal, the fallout, even this moment of quiet reflection. Grandma hadn't just left me an inheritance, she'd left me a roadmap to resilience. 6 months later, my life had transformed in ways I could scarcely have imagined. Anderson and Associates was booming under my leadership. We'd secured 3 major international contracts, one for a sustainable skyscraper in Dubai, another for eco-friendly housing in Singapore, and a third for innovative urban planning in Berlin. To handle the growth, we'd hired 50 new employees, top-tier architects, engineers, and designers who were drawn to a firm that championed merit over nepotism. The office buzzed with creative energy, whiteboards filled with sketches, models taking shape on desks. Everyone knew the company's success story, and it inspired them to push boundaries. Marcus's fraud charges had stuck like glue. He'd pleaded guilty in a hushed courtroom hearing to avoid a lengthy trial and potential jail time, but the sentence included years of court-supervised restitution. Last I heard through the grapevine, Rachel had a knack for gossip. He was working at his uncle's used car dealership in New Jersey, flashing that same charming smile to sell sedans and SUVs, just as he'd once charmed me into believing his lies. Sophia had surprised everyone, perhaps even herself the most. After hitting rock bottom, couch surfing with friends before moving back home, she'd begun rebuilding her life brick by brick. She still clocked in at Starbucks, steaming lattes and taking orders with a humility she'd never shown before, but she'd also enrolled in community college for business administration classes. For the first time, she was paying her own tuition, juggling shifts and study sessions. Mom mentioned in a rare email that Sophia was in therapy, confronting years of deep-seated entitlement and jealousy that had poisoned our relationship. My parents had been forced into a radical downsizing. The sprawling family home with its manicured lawns and pool was sold to cover legal fees and debts, replaced by a modest 2-bedroom condo on the outskirts of town. Dad's embezzlement case had been settled out of court with hefty fines and restitution payments, effectively ending his high-flying career. He now worked as a junior consultant at a small, unassuming firm, crunching numbers for clients he'd once looked down on. Mom, too, had entered the workforce as a receptionist at a local dental office, answering phones and scheduling appointments, a far cry from her days of luncheons and social clubs. 60, they were learning the value of earning over entitlement, a lesson long overdue. Over lunch at our favorite cafe one sunny afternoon, Rachel updated me on the family grapevine. "They ask about you all the time," she said, spearing a forkful of salad. "Your mom comes into the salon every few weeks for a trim. She always inquires how you're doing like she's hoping for a crumb of news." "And what do you tell her?" I asked, curious. "I tell her you're thriving," Rachel grinned. "Because you are, Ellie. Look at you, CEO, dealmaker, heartbreak survivor." She was spot on. I'd ventured back into dating, but this time with caution and clear boundaries. His name was Daniel, a civil engineer with kind eyes and a dry sense of humor. We'd met at an industry conference, bonding over shared passions for sustainable design. He hadn't heard a whisper of my family drama until our third date, when I laid it all out over dinner. He listened intently, then reached across the table to squeeze my hand. Your grandmother sounds like she was absolutely brilliant, he said. And so are you, for turning that mess into something powerful. Daniel was everything Marcus wasn't: kind without agenda, stable without secrets, debt-free and fiercely independent. The board would approve him in a heartbeat, not that I was rushing toward marriage. I'd learned the hard way to take things slow, savoring each moment without the pressure of forever. The most unexpected twist came in the form of a letter from Sophia, delivered to my office last week. The envelope was plain, her handwriting neat but hesitant. I opened it alone after hours, the city lights twinkling outside my window. "Ellie," it began, "I know you probably don't want to hear from me, but my therapist insists I make amends. Not to beg for forgiveness, but to own my accountability. I was cruel to you, plain and simple. I took everything I could, your trust, your plans, your happiness, because I was consumed by jealousy. You were always the smart one, the talented one, the hardworking one, qualities I lacked and resented. Instead of bettering myself, I tried to diminish you, to make you smaller so I could feel bigger. Marcus was never about love for me. He was a trophy, a way to win, to prove I could snatch anything from you. I see now how utterly pathetic that mindset was. Your objection at the wedding, as humiliating as it was a gift in disguise. Forced me to confront who I really am, and it was ugly, but necessary. I'm working hard to be better now, not for you, not for our family, but for myself. I don't expect you to forgive me. I just wanted you to know that I'm trying. Sophia." I read it 3 times, each pass stirring a mix of emotions: anger, pity, a flicker of hope. Then I filed it away in a drawer, not ready to respond but not discarding it either. Maybe someday we'd have a conversation. Maybe not. For now, maintaining boundaries felt more vital than building bridges. Grandma's portrait now hung prominently in my office, her wise eyes overseeing the empire she'd founded and I'd inherited. It was a black and white photo from her early days, showing her at a drafting table, pencil in hand, determination etched on her face. I found myself talking to it during quiet moments, sharing updates on contracts won, challenges navigated, milestones achieved. "You taught me the most profound lesson," I whispered to her one evening, as rain pattered against the windows. "That kindness doesn't equate to weakness, patience isn't the same as passivity, and the best revenge isn't about destruction. It's about living your authentic truth and allowing others to face the consequences of theirs." Company was unequivocally mine now, a thriving entity poised for even greater heights. The future stretched out before me, full of possibilities I'd earned through resilience and resolve. For the first time in my life, I felt precisely where I belonged, at the helm, steering my own destiny. That's the story of how I transformed profound betrayal into unshakable triumph, without ever raising my voice or throwing a single punch. It was all about patience, meticulous preparation, and impeccable timing. If you've journeyed with me this far through the twists and turns, you're truly incredible. Thank you for sharing in my tale. What boundaries are you ready to set in your own life to protect your peace? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear them. If this story resonated with you or inspired a spark of courage, please share it with someone who might need a reminder that justice doesn't always arrive with fanfare and fireworks. Sometimes it slips in quietly, armed with nothing more than documents and determination. Subscribe for more tales of quiet victories where underdogs rise and truths prevail. Until next time, remember this: the best revenge isn't plotted in anger. It's simply a life well lived, shining brightly enough to illuminate the shadows others cast.